The chloroplast, as we all know, is the organelle of photosynthesis. Why? Because it contains the green chlorophyll, or the photosynthetic pigment. It gives the plant, of course, the chloroplasts, they are found in the green parts of the plant, like the leaves, the stem, but mostly they are found in the leaves. Almost all the plant cells, they contain genetic information to allow the cell to make chloroplasts. But in some conditions, there are some areas of the plant that will turn green if they are exposed to the sunlight and will make photosynthesis. Now, what does this mean? Suppose I have the cabbage, for example, or the lettuce. The outer leaves, they are green in color. They have chloroplasts, they are photosynthesizing, but the inner leaves of the cabbage are white in color. Now, if you peeled the green leaves and allowed the white inner ones to be exposed to the sun, so they turn green and starts to photosynthesize. It means that under certain conditions, like exposure to the sunlight, the genes that are responsible to form chlorophyll and chloroplasts, they are activated by the sunlight, or they are switched on by the sunlight. This is again an environmental factor influencing the appearance of the formation of these chloroplasts. For almost all the cells, they carry these genetic information that have orders to the cell to form or to make chloroplasts. But what's the exception? I just said that chloroplasts, they are found in the leaves, in the stem, and all the plant cells, they have information to make these chloroplasts, but they are not made, of course. Their genes are switched off unless activated. But there are some exceptions. There are certain parts of the plant that never make or produce or to synthesize chloroplasts. Like what? For example, like the flower cells never make chloroplasts. We never saw green flower. Also the seeds, most of the seeds, and the roots. Roots are always white or creamy white or grayish, but they are never green. Seeds, most of the majority of the seeds are whitish or creamy white. For example, I want to give you an example about the green seed, like are those found in the peas. And by the way, the green seeds of the peas, this is a recessive character. The dominant character is the yellow seed, yellow peas, the seeds of the pea, the seeds that are found inside the pod. These are exceptions for that make these parts of the plant differ from all other cells of the plant. Now, what is the structure of the chloroplasts? I'm going to put the pictures here for the chloroplasts. One, by using the electron microscope, because you have to know how do these organelles appear under the electron microscope, while the other one is a hand-drawn picture, as you can see. Now let us look at this electron microscope picture. Of course, the parts of the chloroplast are seen. It resembles exactly this one, except for some changes, but let me explain about this one. At the beginning, what are the dimensions of the chloroplast? Chloroplast, it nearly has the same size as the mitochondria, slightly bigger. I said that mitochondria ranges from, for example, 4 to 10 or to 8 micrometers. This chloroplast, its length is about from 4 to 10 micrometers. Its thickness is about from 2 to 3 micrometers, nearly similar to the mitochondrial dimensions, but the mitochondria may be 1 micrometer less or half a micrometer less. It is considered, of course, one of the large organelles after the nucleus. I told you before when I was explaining the animal cell that the nucleus is the largest, followed by the mitochondria. But here in the plant cell, there is the chloroplast. So in order, nucleus, chloroplast, mitochondria, because the mitochondria are a bit smaller than the chloroplasts. If you can see, you can notice here that this chloroplast is surrounded, it's very clear, by two membranes, an inner membrane and an outer membrane, like the mitochondria. It was surrounded by inner membrane and outer membrane. In the chloroplast, there is a fluid which is protein in nature, which is called the stroma. In the mitochondria, it was a fluid, protein in nature, but differ in name or different name. They called it the matrix, but nearly the same composition of the material. In both of them, they are equal. Here we have ribosomes, 70 S ribosomes, exactly like those in the mitochondria. So which organism, Warda, has 70 S ribosomes?
Bacteria.
Bacteria, very good, excellent. Bacteria has, yes, 70 S ribosomes like chloroplast and mitochondria. There is another structure that is common between mitochondria and chloroplasts, but unfortunately it's not drawn here. This is, let me draw it, the DNA, or we call it the circular DNA. Again, this circular DNA is found in the mitochondria and in bacteria. This circular DNA is independent of the DNA found in the nucleus. Yani, if this chloroplast is found in the cytoplasm, suppose this is the cytoplasm, and there is a nucleus here. Inside the nucleus, there is the DNA that we know has nothing to do with the circular DNA of the cell, of the chloroplast. So why is there circular DNA? Because there is a circular DNA and there are ribosomes, it means that both of them will share to form protein used by the chloroplast only. A circular DNA is carrying a genetic code to form, that is used by the ribosomes in order to form a protein. So why is the protein needed here? I just said that this stroma is protein in nature. It is a liquid that contains protein, because this protein is needed to form the enzymes that are very important in the process of photosynthesis. Yani, in A2, inshallah, you are going to learn the photosynthesis has two stages. One of them is completely dependent on enzymes, and that's why the cell, the chloroplast, has to synthesize its own enzymes. Plus, chlorophyll itself is a protein. Chlorophyll, CHON, and magnesium. Here we have 55 carbon, 72 hydrogen, 5, 4, and 1. This is a protein, so it has to be synthesized inside the chloroplast, of course. But these are two similarities between the bacteria and together with the chloroplast and mitochondria. That's why they concluded that chloroplasts and mitochondria were once upon a time prokaryotic cells or bacteria that gained access inside a eukaryotic cell, and after evolution this bacteria changed to be a mitochondria or a chloroplast. And this theory, I mentioned something about it when I was explaining the mitochondria. Who remembers the name of the theory, Gama? What's the name of the theory? No comment. You have to remember these. Endosymbiont theory. It's called like this, endosymbiont theory. It proved that the chloroplast and the mitochondria were prokaryotic cells because they have structures from bacteria. Type. What else is found inside the chloroplast? I haven't mentioned anything about chlorophyll up till now. The chlorophyll is included in these structures. These structures, I'm going to show this like this. These structures look like this. Discs that are arranged one above the other, like this. They appear as if they are lines. No, they are discs, and they are called membranous discs. Each disc is called a thylakoid. And the whole stack is called granum. And the plural is grana. But if you looked at the picture, this is a granum that is formed of thylakoid, another granum, as you can see. All these are stacks of discs that are arranged one over above the other. Each disc is called the thylakoids. They are membranous discs. It means that if I cut one of them, I'm going to see that it looks like this. Just a membrane, and inside this membrane, chlorophyll is found. Membranous thylakoids or membranous discs. Now, because we have this chloroplast, it performs the same function, so all parts or all grana have to be connected to each other. They are connected by membranes. Here are the membranes connecting them, and these membranes are called lamellae. One of them is lamella, and all of them are lamellae. And these lamellae, by the way, they contain chlorophyll as well, but not as much as the thylakoids. Sorry. Now, what about these? These are starch grains or starch granules. When the chloroplast makes glucose by photosynthesis, part of this glucose is stored as starch, because we have already known that starch is formed of thousands or hundreds of glucose molecules, and they are stored in the plant cells. They are stored in these chloroplasts. Once they are formed, they can stay for further usage in the chloroplasts. Right. From here, I can mention the difference or the similarities between mitochondria and the chloroplast. The first similarity is the double membrane, outer and inner. Second similarity is the kind of fluid inside. All of them are protein in nature, but in the chloroplast we called it stroma. In the mitochondria we called it matrix. Mitochondria and chloroplasts, they both have 70S ribosomes, and they both have a circular DNA which is independent of the DNA of the cell, and this DNA is responsible for production of proteins in the chloroplast and the mitochondria. And of course, I must not forget the dimensions, but if you were asked about similarities between chloroplast and mitochondria, don't begin by dimensions. You have to put this at the last point. All the points that I just mentioned are more important than the dimensions. How, in other words, they are the structures of both of them related to their function. Type. Are there other organelles in the plant cell? Yes, there is an organelle that looks exactly like chloroplast, but with some differences. These organelles are called amyloplasts. So from the name, what do they store? Amyloplasts. Yes, Mariam. What do they store from the name?
Starch.
Of course, because we have known that starch, the scientific name is amylum. And we know that there is a kind of starch called amylose. Amylo means something dealing with starch. Thank you, Mary. Amyloplasts, they are specialized, they are some specialized plant cells that they are colorless and they store starch to be converted later on to glucose when more energy is needed. But where are those amyloplasts found? For example, any plant that stores starch, like the potatoes, for example, potato tubers, we call them. They are found inside them. Amyloplasts, they are kind of cells that contain structures similar to chloroplast, but they are not green. They are white in color, or we say that they are white. They are colorless, المفروض, and they store starch inside. But what are the similarities and differences between the plant and animal cells? And this is very easy and very important to know. And if a question came like this, you are very lucky. Let me begin by similarities. Between the animal and the plant cell. The first similarity is the presence of a cell membrane, or we can say cell surface membrane, in order to differentiate it between the other membranes of the inside of the cell. Of course, both of them, they have a cell surface membrane that contains cytoplasm inside, and of course the cell membrane is similar in structure between the animal and plant cell. It means that it is formed of bilayer of phospholipids together with proteins that allow materials to enter or to exit, with cholesterol and everything, with glycoproteins and so on. The second similarity is the presence of a nucleus in both of them. The nucleus in both animal and plant cell, it is surrounded by a nuclear envelope. It contains inside the chromatin, the DNA, and a nucleolus in both of them. The same, exactly the same. The third similarity is the mitochondria. Again, and there are other structures that are common. Let me write them back together. We have Golgi apparatus in both. We have endoplasmic reticulum with both types, rough or smooth. Also, there are ribosomes in animal and plant cells, but here they are 80S, of course, while in the mitochondria and the chloroplast, they are 70S. There are, what else? Lysosomes that contain digestive enzymes. They are found in both. Here, these organelles, they are found or contained inside the cytoplasm. Right. What else? What about the differences? Yani, these are all the similarities. What about the differences? Who can tell me what's the first difference? Yes, Salma. What's the first difference between animal and plant cell?
Cell wall.
Excellent. طبعا Salma, how are you today? Are you are you well? يعني خلاص
I feel better, yes.
طب الحمد لله
Yes.
الحمد لله. Yes, the cell wall طبعا يا سلمى إن في plant cell there is a cell wall, while in the animal cell there is no cell wall. Of course, the cell wall of the plant cell, it is formed of cellulose, and when the plant cell gets older, there is deposition of other materials like lignin and suberin. Type. We're just inside the cell wall, there is the cell membrane, of course. Luigi, can you give me the other difference?
The large permanent vacuole in the plant cell.
Excellent طبعا.
And the
برافو.
vesicles in the
برافو.
animal.
يبقى vacuole بقى. I'm going to say vacuole because you just described that of the plant cell as a large permanent, while the other one is small and temporary. طيب, give me another difference, Sanya.
The chloroplast.
Excellent.
Animals don't have chloroplast.
Yes, of course. Another difference, Warda. There are two differences more. Give me one of them.
The plasmodesmata.
Plasmodesmata. Okay, okay, I can put it, yes. Then there are three differences. Mariam, can you remember the difference that is in my mind?
That the plants have the stoma inside the chloroplast while the animals have the matrix with mitochondria.
This is not the difference, it's just difference in names. Can you remember what happens in meiosis and mitosis in plant cell and in animal cell? What's very important in animal cell that's not found in plant cell, used in cell division? Yes, Yuji.
Centrioles.
Very good. Centrioles. And let me add بقى, of course centrioles are found in animal cell, not in plant cells. Let me add the starch granules or storage of carbohydrates in the plant. They are stored as starch in starch granules, while in the animal they are stored as glycogen granules.